So I just watched an interesting video recommended to me on YouTube about the whole Vince McMahon situation by Jesse on Fire. Obviously, he is part of the MMA world. He does look very familiar. I will give him that. I think I've seen him on some MMA broadcasts before, UFC mostly. And he brought up a good, interesting theory, speculation, if you will. And, if there's one thing a lot of us always say is that everybody has a right to their opinion. I came out and I said basically in my first video and in my reply to my video that, basically, you have a right to your opinion, but the opinion when it comes to a situation like this is invalid. And I had to correct myself on that because basically what I was being told is essentially we need evidence. We need proof that all this actually happened, that this happened to this woman and all that, besides what's described graphically in the 67-page lawsuit, as well as what's showcased in the screenshots of the text messages that was sent between her and Vince. Now, one thing Jesse brings up is that her replies, in his opinion, to Vince pretty much invalidates, her lawsuit, invalidates, her innocence in all of this, pretty much. Now, Jesse's not saying that, Vince didn't do any of this. That Vince isn't guilty of all this. But he feels it just is too coincidental that within a span of 24 to 48 hours, you have, Netflix making, this deal to acquire Raw. You have The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, going to the TKO board of directors, basically becoming part of it. And within the next 24 to 48 hours, you have this scandal. You have this Janelle Grant coming out and saying all this stuff, about Vince McMahon, and even saying that, hey, I'm the one that basically was anonymous back in 2022 when, this information was first sent out. Now, again, he's not denying, that Vince did any of this. He's not denying that Janelle is making this stuff up. He's just looking at it from a chronological standpoint of how coincidental, it could be, or how ironic the timing is. And this is what, people are talking about when, they say we need evidence. Now this here is not the legal evidence that's needed, but this is evidence from somebody that's basically saying, look, I'm not disagreeing, but I just find it kind of weird, the timing of all this happening. And, again, like I said, people have a right to, have an opinion in what they believe and what they see. And like I said, he doesn't agree with Vince being innocent, and he's not denying that Vince didn't do any of this. He just finds the timing kind of weird. And I don't blame him. I don't blame him when I heard what he had to say. I don't blame him, but like I said in my videos, there's just too much evidence. And I said this in a video I did after my initial video where I asked why people are defending Vince. I said in that I said in that other video that even if he takes this to court and wins, he's only going to win 25% to 30% of the lawsuit because the other 70 to 75% is going to be too much for him to overcome. And I think Jesse on Fire would agree that, yeah, even if he is found innocent of this, this kind of act that, he's being accused of and everything, that even if he wins against that, everything else that's following suit will not be in his favor. It will not be in his favor. Now, one thing that he did bring up, and I'm surprised nobody brought this up either, maybe, JD from NY206 and Andrew Baydella will bring it up on Tuesday Night Titans in a little bit. As of this recording, it's about 4:51 p.m. in the afternoon. Maybe they'll bring it up during the live stream. But he brought up the fact that, when, Endeavor, merged WWE with UFC and made TKO, that basically they, got access to the accounting, the accounting division, the accounts and everything, account management, basically. And that by having access to the account management, to like all the files and histories and all that, that it might have been, not saying it was, but it might have been Ari Emanuel who noticed that Vince was paying out, payments of up to $3 million to this woman, and that it was Ari Emanuel's decision to stop the payments because now they controlled the accounts of WWE. So he made the decision, in his eyes, to potentially stop, the lawsuit. Or not lawsuit, but to stop the payments to this woman, to keep her quiet. And that essentially opened the door for her to come out and sue, basically reveal who she is and what's happened and everything, and go from there. Now, again, this is just his opinion. He's just theorizing. He's just thinking that it just feels kind of weird how this all lines up. And like I said, people have a right to their opinion. There's a lot of people that are going to outnumber him and say, well, yeah, that's your opinion, but the evidence is too much not to prove that that Vince didn't do any of this, and that this woman isn't in the right. So Jesse obviously knows, Jesse on Fire obviously knows that's a fact, that he's pretty much one of the few people that try to be unbiased in this scenario, but realizes, people are going to say, well, what about this? What about that? And there's no getting around that. There's no getting around that whatsoever. But, here's the thing. He brings this up, and he brings this up because he feels that the timing of all of this happening within the span of 24 to 48 hours, feels like it's a double cross. Like maybe Ari Emanuel planned this to happen, when the timing was right. Now, some people will counter argue that and say, there's no way Ari Emanuel could have planned that. There's no way. But here's the thing, he has a point that Ari and his team have access to the account files and everything from WWE, the financial files, the records. And that over time, they could have saw that Vince was making payments, and that maybe he stopped, having those payments issued out to this woman, maybe a little after they took over officially. And then this woman, waiting months for a payment, saw that the payments weren't coming and was like, okay, I guess I'm just going to have to sue. Or I'm just going to have to come out and expose the truth about Vince and, the fact that I'm the person that anonymously sent out the information originally. Maybe that's what happened. We're not really sure. But what he's doing in an unbiased manner, Jesse that is he's trying to, trying to see exactly, he's trying to see, where the truth lies in the middle. Like, what's true from Vince's end, what's true from Janelle's end, and find a middle ground, basically. That's what it sounds like what he's doing. He's trying to find a middle ground to the whole scenario. And, guess what? All respect to him for doing that. Because he's being unbiased. He's being opinionated. He's being very opinionated in what he feels. He's being opinionated in what he feels and everything, and all that. But he's not playing favorites. He's basically saying, look, he's basically saying, look, the timing, in his opinion, from what he can tell, doing research and everything, just seems to line up as being too much of an ironic coincidence. An ironic coincidence that this suddenly happens days after this Netflix Raw deal and Rock going to TKO and all that. But again, that's just a theory and opinion on his part. He even said, hey, look, it could just be a coincidence that she just picked the time, right afterwards to do this because, hey, the WWE's in the spotlight now with this mega deal to Netflix and Rock going to TKO. What better time to, make things public, and bring the high WWE and Vince and all of them on straight into a dark down low. What better timing? What better timing than that? Apparently, and that could have been what happened. Maybe it was just the fact that she saw that hey, they're in the spotlight in a big way. That they're being basically hyped up as being game changers with this deal for Raw and The Rock going to TKO. What better timing? And the rest is history. But like I said, what he's doing though is he's trying to look at it from an unbiased standpoint. He's even looking at her replies in the texts to Vince as basically potentially being, her albatross, her downfall, if you will, when it comes to these accusations. Like, again, he's not denying that she's not telling the truth, and he's not denying that she won't win out in the end. But he's just saying that what he's thinking is what the judge will see. And the judge will see, Vince's text to her, her texts to Vince, and the judge may, may declare a no contest. Basically, no contest. Basically, nothing, nothing good comes from it. Like they will say they will rule no contest. Basically, in my opinion. Well, they'll both find them guilty, and Vince has to go still pay her, but she has to do something in return, like community service, or get some kind of therapy and all that because of because of all this. Again, these are just possibilities, and he's just looking at it from a perspective of that's what the judge could look at. That's what the judge could look at. The fact that she replied back when she didn't have to. When she didn't have to. But I do recommend checking out, the video. I'll put it at the end here. But yeah, it's a very unbiased, opinionated thought, on the situation. And he's not saying, Vince is wrong. What Vince did is, he's not saying that what Vince did, didn't happen. He's not saying that this lady's lying. Anything like that. He just feels that there's a truth in the middle that we have to get to, and he feels that what he's uncovered is possibly that middle truth. But let me know what your thoughts are, and I'll talk to y'all later.